The transmission towers hummed with enough voltage to vaporize bone. Blood dripped from Cale's nose, glowing a bioluminescent violet against the steel grating. He stood in the spherical broadcast spire, breathing in short, agonizing gasps. Director Sela's vein lay thrashing on the floor beneath him. The bureaucrat's cybernetic implants smoked from the raw data surge. Cale reached his bare, blistering hands toward the severed fiber optic cables. Bridging the relay would ignite his nervous system. If he stopped, 2 civilizations would burn. The official archives call it a diplomatic miracle. I call it the day a mechanic bled for the stars. 48 hours earlier, the freighter Colorado smelled only of recycled air and old ozone. Cale Vance flipped a tarnished copper coin through his grease-stained fingers. The metal disc carried the stamped image of a crumbling lighthouse. He rubbed his thumb over the worn edge, counting the seconds until the primary reactor cycled. Micrometeorites pinged against the outer hull like hail. Jory Hale kicked the co-pilot's console, rattling the empty coffee tins. We are hauling rocks to nowhere across the most dangerous shipping lane in the sector. Lithium keeps the oxygen flowing, Cale muttered, adjusting a localized pressure valve. I washed out of the Naval Academy for this. I could have found respectable work on a luxury liner. Cale ignored him, his eyes locked on the primary navigational scopes. The radar ghosted with green static, then stabilized into an impossible reading. A massive thermal bloom pulsed 3 grid sectors away, buried deep within the Ganymede debris field. No transponder ping accompanied the heat signature, which violated every maritime shipping law in the Perseus Arm. Log the anomaly and let's move, Jory said, chewing his synthetic stem gum faster. Since when did you become the responsible one? Cale adjusted the sensor gain. The thermal bloom wasn't erratic, it was pulsing, a rhythmic fading heartbeat in the cold dark. He grabbed his reinforced EVA helmet from the bulkhead hook. The rusted hydraulic locks of the starboard airlock hissed, venting pressure into the cabin. Cale, that is restricted space. The Coalition Navy relentlessly patrols the Ganymede Rift. Keep the fusion engine hot. Cale propelled himself across the freezing vacuum toward the shattered hull of the derelict ship. The vessel's architecture defied standard Coalition design. No sharp angles existed anywhere on the massive superstructure. Sweeping curves of pale, iridescent metal spun slowly in the debris field, reflecting the distant light of the gas giant. He breached the damaged secondary airlock using his handheld plasma torch, slicing through the anomalous alloys. The interior reeked of sulfur and vaporized copper. 4 elite guards in slagged ceremonial armor drifted weightlessly in zero gravity. They were tall, ethereal, violent. Beneath a collapsed titanium bulkhead, a small figure thrashed faintly against the crushing weight. Cale wedged his hydraulic jaws against the crushed metal beam. The servos whined loudly, protesting the immense pressure, finally snapping the obstruction. He pulled the violent child free. Her violet eyes fluttered, searching his masked face in terror. He pressed his backup oxygen mask over her delicate features. "I've got you," he whispered, the sound deadened by the vacuum. Proximity alarms suddenly screamed over his suit communications. 3 Coalition dreadnoughts dropped out of slip space, locking massive tractor beams on the derelict. Before Cale could move, the shadows in the corridor shifted. A violin woman stepped from the dark, Queen Isabella. Her silver-white hair floated around a face carved from pale marble. She pressed her glowing hands directly to his chest armor. Bioluminescent light flared, blinding him through the polarized visor. "They hunted us to start a war," she commanded. "Bear our truth." Agony pierced his ribs. The Aegis core fused with his biology. A symbiotic lattice of harmonic mathematics flooded his mind, rewriting his neural pathways. He blacked out, the darkness claiming him instantly. He woke crashing onto the Colorado's metal deck. Jory dragged him forcefully to the pilot's chair. "Cruisers are charging kinetic batteries." Kale's vision swam with complex geometric overlays. He didn't just see the ship's physical readouts. He felt the reactor pulsing deep in his own veins. The pain was absolute, radiating from his sternum. He ripped open the main engineering console, tearing away the paneling. He bypassed the thermal regulator, or rather, he ripped it entirely out of the wall. Grabbing the live plasma conduits with his bare hands, he ignored the searing heat blackening his palms. Hold on. He forced the primitive fusion core to 120% capacity. The Colorado executed a blind slip-space fold. They left the coalition dreadnoughts firing heavy ordnance into empty vacuum. They materialized deep inside the treacherous rust belt. The scrapyard megastructure offered endless places to hide among rogue ice asteroids and hollowed-out dreadnoughts. But Kale's chest glowed violently through his oil-stained shirt. The core was broadcasting a localized harmonic signal, a beacon drawing their enemies. Kale scavenged heavy parts from a ruined deep-core mining rig. He stripped industrial inductive coils and a shattered hard-light emitter. Wiring them together with fraying cables, he forged a crude defensive gauntlet. The sharp smell of ozone and machine grease masked the metallic scent of his own blood pooling in his boots. "They are here," Jory whispered, watching the grainy perimeter security feeds. Director Sela's Vane descended the ramp of a sleek stealth dropship. 6 elite Black Ops operatives flanked the bureaucrat, magnetic rifles raised. Vane wore a flawless charcoal suit, completely out of place in the grim, rust-covered surroundings. A chrome optical implant whirred loudly in his left eye socket, adjusting focus on the 2-cornered scavengers. "Give me the lattice, Mr. Vance." Vane's voice scraped like gravel on steel. Vane paused to meticulously brush a speck of gray dust from his pristine cufflink. Meridian Defense funded the ambush. A royal assassination guarantees a century of profitable conflict. The operatives raised their magnetic rifles, aiming for center mass. Kale slammed his jury-rigged gauntlet into the grated deck. The hardlight shield bloomed outward, absorbing the initial kinetic volley. He didn't hold the defensive line. He inverted the emitter's polarity. A concussive shockwave shattered the operative's visors and ruptured the dropship's hydraulic landing gear. The armed men crumpled to the floor, incapacitated. "Take their ship," Kale told Jory, tossing him the access codes pulled from the destroyed dropship's network. The stolen stealth vessel sliced downward through the upper atmosphere of Earth, burning red against the friction. Kale fed complex false telemetry into the planetary orbital defenses. He tricked the automated weapon platforms into registering their rapid descent as a migratory bird flock moving south. They dove steeply toward the fortified Geneva substratum. They entered the buried citadel through a massive geothermal exhaust vent. Kale's gauntlet absorbed the lethal ambient heat of the massive subterranean shafts, storing the thermal energy. Heavily armed Marines swarmed the lower utility corridors, rifles tracking movement. Jory triggered a series of non-lethal EMP pulses. This cleared the immediate path while Kale absorbed stray kinetic rounds against his flickering hardlight shield. Every step taken deeper into the citadel burned his flesh. The Violin lattice fought human gravity, constantly pulling Kale's newly forged nervous system toward the stars. He saw the Citadel's vaunted architecture as a crude web of copper and silicon. It was vastly inferior to the flawless quantum pathways singing continuously in his head. Jory laid down heavy suppressing fire with a stolen railgun, shattering marble pillars. The broadcast spire is past the main server farm. Kale shoved forcefully through the reinforced blast doors leading to the central hub. Heavy automated security mechs turned their 6-barrel rotary cannons toward the intruders. Kale didn't shoot his weapon. He extended his bare hand, letting the Aegis core interface directly with their primitive operating mainframes. The massive mechs powered down immediately, their red optical sensors fading to black, rendering them harmless statues. He felt the crushing weight of billions of lives resting on the next 5 minutes. If Vane's conspiracy held firm, the Coalition Navy would strike Vireland Prime by dawn. The resulting retaliation would turn Earth into radioactive glass. Cale kicked open the heavy doors of the transmission spire. Vane stood waiting near the central console, having bypassed the lower security gates. The director held a scavenged arc blade, his cybernetic enhancements humming with overdrive power. Cale dropped his flickering shield. He let the crackling arc blade plunge deep into his own left shoulder. Blood dripped from his nose, glowing a bioluminescent violet against the steel grating. He grabbed Vane by the throat. He flooded the man's augmentations with raw data, a billion years of harmonic mathematics. Director Silas Vane lay thrashing on the floor beneath him, his cybernetic implants smoking. Jory screamed over the comms that bridging the global relay would kill him. Cale reached his bare, blistering hands toward the severed fiber optic cables. Bridging the relay would ignite his nervous system. He jammed his bleeding fingers directly into the live glass fibers. The pain was absolute, a dying star igniting inside his skull. His human body became a quantum router. Every digital screen on Earth went pitch black. Then the undeniable truth appeared on billions of displays. Unedited telemetry of the brutal ambush, the rescue, the murdered guards, the corporate conspiracy flooded the networks. Simultaneously, the Aegis core screamed a harmonic beacon across the deep void. The sky above Geneva Tor opened violently. Massive Vireland dreadnoughts descended through the atmosphere. They were not firing their weapons, but simply witnessing the broadcast. Queen Isabella's voice overrode the Citadel's localized audio systems. "You have shown more honor than my own generals." General Briggs arrived moments later with heavily armed military police. The general slapped heavy irons onto Vane's wrists. He knelt beside Cale's smoking, exhausted body. "Son, you just prevented the extinction of the human race, and you gave us the stars." Deep within his chest, a faint, rhythmic pulse echoed, an extraterrestrial remnant of the lattice refusing to fade. 2 years later, the Rust Belt remained a graveyard of forgotten ships, but the wider galaxy was entirely unrecognizable. The Meridian Defense conglomerate was systematically dismantled by joint tribunals. Public trials broadcast across 2 distinct empires. Jory Hale, the kid who could not find respectable work, commanded the very first hybrid diplomatic vessel. Human durability finally married to elegant Vireland slip tech. Cale's DNA was permanently altered by the raw data transfer. He could never safely return to the high gravity of his home world. Instead, he lived on Vireland Prime as Earth's first official ambassador. He spent his mornings walking the sprawling bioluminescent gardens, drinking terrible synthesized coffee from a ceramic mug. A young child ran toward him, carrying glowing school tablets. She was healthy now, her silver-white hair catching the morning light, her violet eyes bright. She knew him only as the strange man who breathed for her when the universe had left her to die. He knelt down on the manicured extraterrestrial grass. The tarnished copper coin rested now in a small non-human hand. Sunlight illuminated the crumbling lighthouse stamped onto the metal, casting a long shadow across the path.